it's really hard to break into the smaller venues. There's these promoters in Grand Rapids, kind of have a stranglehold on the small venues. Unless you know someone that knows someone, it's really hard to penetrate that and get into it. So we really wanted to come up with a place where new, like up-and-coming bands can have a place to play, where they get good sound, can play to a lot of people. And so we talked to some of our friends, found a place to play, and we supply all the sound equipment, and we booked the bands, and then put together shows like once a month at a place in Grand Rapids. The Quarry House is an actual house, and people live there, real people. They're my friends. I met them, actually, I'm a student at Grand Valley State University, and I met my friend Kyle Hart over the past couple of years. He graduated last spring, and before he graduated, he was talking to me about the idea of having shows at his place, but he said, oh, I know you're in a band. He'd been coming to my band's shows when we'd play like bars and small clubs around Grand Rapids. And he kind of asked me if I ever wanted to book a show in his basement, which he thought would be perfect for like a house venue. And I said, sure, like we can look into that. And he's got a basement, and I went to check it out. And I said, this place is perfect. And all of his roommates were very behind the idea. They love the idea of hosting these shows. They're all big supporters of the local scene. And they look at it as like a big party they get to have every month. The only thing that they lacked coming into it was connections and equipment. And that's kind of where they rely on me to put together the lineups, run sound, get these bands in there, and then the shows just kind of run themselves after that. I go about finding the bands that play at these venues by really just a variety of ways. I found one because I work at Founders, and I saw one play an open mic night, and I said, these guys rock. It was like their second time ever playing as a band, and I talked to them after the show, got their contact information, and the next month they played at the Quarry House. Now they're great friends of ours. The other ones are just kind of like, once you start these shows, they kind of just build themselves, kind of like what I was saying before about how the shows kind of run themselves. Now the booking is starting to kind of run itself, because as one band plays, they talk about how great the experience was to their other friends who are in bands, and these bands reach out to me and they're like, hey, my friends in X band really liked playing at the Quarry House. Is there any way I could play there? And I'm like, sure, let me just check out your stuff. Like, let's find a bill that works for you. And then I put together lineups around bands that kind of sound good together, and we just kind of been doing it that way. In general, in Grand Rapids, bands have to beg for shows from promoters. They go and they email, and they're relentless. In order to get breakthrough, if you don't know someone that knows someone, you just have to nonstop email. We have, from my last count, 4 active house venues in Grand Rapids that fire up regularly and host shows. People love folk in Grand Rapids. Bluegrassy, folk, indie rock kind of stuff, that thrives here. And that's probably, those genres make up like 90% of the bands that come through. And just being in a band in general, you have to have some kind of social media presence. But from my experience, if you're relying on that as your starting point, as your foundation, it's not going to go anywhere. You really need that person-to-person interaction. You need that word of mouth. You need people to come to shows, and then they link up with you on social media, and then they follow you from there on out. The best retention rate and like how you get fans, how you get people to come back, is if you get them, you talk to them one-on-one, or someone brings their friend, they just show up at a show. You get the person there, then if they like what they saw, then they'll do the work. It's because then you get to actually build a realistic connection with people, and you feel good about what you're doing.